Later, private commandos slipped behind Tunisian borders to stage a daring hostage rescue attempt. And when we return, Nazi hunters catch up with one of the Third Reich's most brutal killers.
It's a murderer. A cold-blooded, sadistic murderer.
The German Luger. A classic design. Its 9mm slug has greater penetrating power with more accuracy and greater range than the American .45. And yet our next fugitive preferred to use it point blank on randomly chosen, defenseless Jewish prisoners. He may, in fact, be personally responsible for the deaths of more than 3,400 people. But he disappeared in the post-war chaos, setting in motion one of the longest manhunts of this century.
He killed every day, whenever I saw him. Most people called him the Nazi god.
In a war filled with horrors, Josef Schwammberger was one of the most horrible. He was a Nazi SS lieutenant, commandant of several small labor camps and ghettos in Poland. The German government believes Josef Schwammberger personally murdered 43 people and ordered the killing of at least 3,400 more. Most were Jews. Eyewitnesses remember torture, hanging, burning.
It's a murderer. A cold-blooded, sadistic murderer.
Abe Sasemsky suffered deeply at the hands of Josef Schwammberger. He's haunted by the memory.
He would just come out slowly from his barrack, walk down the 2 steps, whatever they were, and walk over, look over the roll call, order somebody out, pull the pistol, and fire and kill.
Abe Sasemsky lost 97 members of his family to the Nazi Holocaust. His mother, his brothers. His father was murdered right before his eyes.
They cut his throat.
Abe was 18 when he says he saw Schwammberger kill his uncle and 4 others.
He took pleasure in killing. When somebody fell, you could see that when he pulled the trigger, he had a twitch in one face, and the eyes you could see were just full of satisfaction. For nothing he would kill you.
At the end of the war in 1945, the Allies captured Schwammberger as he ran with sacks of loot, jewelry, watches, and gold teeth. He signed a confession, admitting that he had executed 35 Jewish prisoners. But 3 years later, he was gone, escaped through a network of former SS soldiers. Manhunters like Marty Mendelsohn took up the chase. He's a Washington, D.C. lawyer who also hunts Nazis. First with the U.S. Justice Department, now with the Simon Wiesenthal Center. He became a central player in the Schwammberger drama.
I'm a digger. I dig things out and I put puzzles together.
The puzzle came together in October 1987. The Wiesenthal Center announced Schwammberger was one of its 10 most wanted Nazi war criminals, and with the German government, offered $300,000 reward for his capture.
We knew he was in Argentina, we weren't sure where.
Schwammberger had surfaced in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1949, a year after his escape. He was traveling on an Italian passport with his wife and 2 children. He worked at a petrochemical plant and several different blue-collar jobs. He moved to nearby La Plata, bought this small house on Street 141. The next-door neighbor remembers him as a kind and helpful man. The woman who bought the house from him told us she can't believe that he's a war criminal. Schwammberger felt safe. He never even changed his name. At the time, Argentina wasn't interested in chasing Nazis. But after nearly 20 comfortable years came the $300,000 price on his head. Schwammberger's past was catching up with him. Schwammberger ran, going into hiding with a German friend 500 miles northwest of Buenos Aires, but the reward did its work. Just a month after it was offered, an informant turned him in. Marty Mendelsohn says a member of Schwammberger's own family betrayed him, but won't say more. A manhunt that spanned 2 continents and 4 decades was over.
Was a feeling of joy, a feeling that there was a reason to get a man like that to say, why?
Schwammberger's apprehension is one of the most significant events in terms of international law in the last 15 years.
The next step was to win here, at the federal courthouse in La Plata. To send Schwammberger back to Germany for trial, the Argentine government would have to prove that he'd hidden his past when he got his Argentine citizenship. Marty Mendelsohn helped to build the case by bringing together pieces of the puzzle from around the world.
He committed murders in Przemyśl, committed murders in Rosvadov, and finding people who had been at those particular places was difficult. All who survived were scattered throughout the world.
Schwammberger stayed locked in the provincial penitentiary in La Plata in this cell for 2.5 years. The guards remember him as quiet and introverted, reading romance novels from the prison library. During this time, Mendelsohn found the eyewitnesses he needed and brought them to Argentina to testify. Finally, the court ruled Schwammberger could be sent to Germany for war crimes trial.
It is the first time that a South American country has agreed to extradite a war criminal to Germany for trial.
On May the 3rd, 1990, Josef Schwammberger returned to Germany for a trial that would begin more than a year later. He was 79 and had heart problems. Once in the Argentine jail, he fell into a coma, but it might have been a suicide attempt. Now he struggled to walk, but the eyes told another story, still frozen with the cold of the SS lieutenant.
They were trying to dig through the debris of history to get at the truth. Justice, I think, will be served. The trial of Josef Schwammberger is a momentous event for Stuttgart, for Germany, and for the world.
After surviving 9 concentration camps, Abe vowed never to raise children in a world so cruel. Now he believes he was wrong. Abe testified in the Stuttgart trial. He had to remember still again the horrors of that war and that time. But he's glad that before Josef Schwammberger dies, he is having to come face to face with the victims of the Holocaust.
I had to be here, evidently. I don't know, to speak for those that cannot. I have no idea. But the feeling was great, and I thought a man even at his age cannot escape justice. And I have a feeling justice will be done.
Although Schwammberger is finally being brought to justice, hundreds of Hitler's minions are still in hiding throughout the world, such as this man, Alois Brunner, the most wanted Nazi in the world. Hiding from prosecution by the governments of several countries, he's been living under Syrian protection for more than 30 years. An officer of the SS, Brunner was personally responsible for sending as many as 140,000 men, women, and children to their deaths in Nazi camps. At 79, he is missing an eye and 4 fingers on his left hand from letter bombs sent by extremists trying to force him out of Syria. But he remains defiant In a phone interview in the late 80s, he said of his victims, "All of them deserved to die because they were the devil's agents and human garbage. I have no regrets, and I would do it again."